Or I'd like to convene the Committee of the Whole meeting April 27th and ask for a roll call.
Jacobson. Fanouken.
Here.
Lash.
Here.
Snow.
Here.
Naylor.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
O'Leary. Ray.
Here?
6-0.
Thank you. Okay, we have two considerations this evening on our Committee of the Whole agenda, the first of which is the Police Department Annual Report. I'll ask Chief Lowry to come to the podium and present.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and City Administration and staff. I want to take the opportunity to say thank you for giving us a few minutes to talk about 2014 and what's happened in the police department. I want to kind of forewarn you, we may have a little bit of technical difficulties with our PowerPoint presentation tonight, but in any event that happens, I'll get you through it. So let me see if I can get this going for us. It might take a second.
A3782058.
Now, before I go any further, I had to do that because Chief Hicks had a little video on his last year, so I wanted to make sure I got one on there. So I know what's going to happen. He's probably got it in 3D now. So 2014, and you know, when we were putting this together, I always talk to my staff about what we wanted to represent. And to me, if I had to pick one picture that represented 2014 for the police department, it would be the picture that as you look at it would be on the screen to your far left that shows you the back of a police officer and the back of a child walking hand in hand basically down a sidewalk. That might not be the typical picture you want to see, or at least that you would normally see from a police presentation, but I think it marked many positives in our year. Again, it's a little difficult to read, but let me tell you a little bit about some of the personnel changes and benchmarks. We hired 3 police officers in 2014 to fill in some slots due to attrition. First police officer was Abedin Olanaran. The second was Officer Jason Goodwin, and the third was Officer Sonny Street. Officer Olanaran came from the NIU Police Department. Officers Goodwin and Street came from the Rochelle Police Department. In that year, Sergeant Smith was promoted to lieutenant and in charge of the support side of the house. Telecommunicator Latoya Mars was promoted to communications coordinator. And I know you've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again, one of the finest promotions I've ever had the honor to make. Also note that Police Officer Fred Busby, with actually a little over 27 years of service, retired. But he was the officer who fell through a second floor at the Wurlitzer building and had been off duty for quite some time prior to his retirement. Also, you see the picture of 4 police officers grouped together. Officer Jeff Winters, Lieutenant Bob Riddell, Sergeant James Hacker, and Commander John Petrogallo all celebrated 20 years of service. And in the lower right-hand corner is a picture of our first DeKalb Police Department canine, Nick. Unfortunately, Nick was laid to rest on September 19th, 2014, and we celebrated that. Not in a bad way, but commemorating his service. The next slide, I kind of picked 4 things I wanted to just touch base on a little bit. These are some of our community policing initiatives that were in swing in 2014. And the first one, the one that I take a lot of pride in, and the sense of accomplishment in that we brought so many community partnerships to the table, community collaboration. We force multiplied for Camp Power in a way that I've never seen force multiplied before, either in the military or in civilian life and partnering with the community. People from every walk of life, every discipline, every entity just about that I can think of in this city and beyond came to help put this program together or participate in it or contribute to it. In 2013, the police department formed the Youth in Need Task Force. And it was to develop some strategies to deal with youth delinquency and problems associated with youth. Several things came of that. We took a look at the NIU housing study and determined that, you know what, that northwest side is our most densely populated part of the city, and also the greatest calls for service and highest crime rate was in that same sector. So we chose University Village as our beta group, our test group, to see what we could do during the course of a summer. And we brought our volunteers from the Youth in Need Task Force, which were community members from various agencies throughout the community. And so what can we do? So our folks got together and they put together a program that had academic tutoring in the morning, a daily healthy lunch and snack in the afternoon, a nutritional education program, structured physical activity, mentoring and the development of the community gardens, and a wide variety of things like leadership, camaraderie, all kinds of things to the kids of University Village. And I want to remind you, University Village has 534 units, and over 90% of those folks in those units, those households, are headed by single-parent females. We serviced about 125 children that attend school in District 428 in this pilot program. And I guess when I look at outcomes of the program, putting this thing out there really, it was really out of my bailiwick, but it was the intent of the program to reach a group we had never reached before and to understand that we couldn't arrest our way out of the problem. And we wanted to intervene not only with policing strategies to interdict criminal behavior, but we wanted to intervene with kids to try and head them off before they went down that path. That's what Camp Power was all about. During the tenure of this program, Part 2 crimes decreased by 26% that 12-week period as compared to the same time the year before. Now, I know the scientific certainty of that could be questioned by some folks, but I'll accept the positive coincidence that Camp Power was there and crime went down. Camp Power, a very, very positive program. Let me point out to you another program that I think has paid huge dividends, and that's our co-policing initiative with the NIU Police Department. And I could sit here and spout off all kinds of statistics to you, and I'm going to spout off a few in a couple of minutes, but the cooperation, the collaboration, the partnership, and the teamwork that we're experiencing with the NIU Police Department has really been unprecedented, at least for this city. And I can only say that the net result of that are exponential positives. And for that, I thank the men and women of the NIU Police Department and Chief Phillips for their help. And I'll probably hit on it a little bit more as we go through the presentation. Of course, there's crime-free housing in the lower right-hand corner of this. You can't hardly see it. There's a picture of a before and after house there. And there's also some statistic provided for you in this slide that talks about number of properties registered, and we believe we're probably in the area of having 99% compliance. So just so you know that right around 8,600 plus are going to be in that arena this year. When we look at that and we compare it to other programs, other crime-free housing programs across the country, not just across Illinois, that number of compliance is unheard of. So that's not all about the police. That's not all about crime-free housing. That's about the level of cooperation we have with the landlords and property owners in the community, which I think is a positive statement for all those folks. And I've talked about it in front of you before, some of the net results of these positives of looking at crime being committed in rental properties is that our calls for service go down, and we are replete with examples of that. throughout the city, but primarily in the northwest side. I'm going to talk to you real briefly about one more program that the stat that I've given to you is going to be fairly shocking. And that's the resident officer program. It certainly continues to have a positive impact in the Pleasant Street neighborhood, and I know you know it because we're getting ready to do budget, but let me talk to you about the investment you all made in that program. The council gave us the opportunity to purchase a home. It gave us a budget to rehab that home and allowed us to put a police officer in that home with his family to raise his family in a neighborhood that was extremely distressed. So let me tell you how distressed. In 2012, before the program went into effect, there were 591 incidents of all types, from simple thefts to shootings in that neighborhood. In 2014, a 2-year trial period for that program, there were only 189 incidents reported, or a 68% decrease in calls for service. And I can give you testimony after testimony of a abandoned tire drive, of cleaning up a home in the neighborhood that was extremely overgrown and filled with debris, of doing things with the community at Conexión Comunidad that I think are indicative of, again, a partnership with the community and the success of a program. Resident officer program, a very wise investment. And I know I can't read this, and I need bifocals that look like binoculars to get it done, but let me just go through this slide with you real quick. Here are the programs that were in effect or about to be initiated in 2014. The resident officer program, fully operational in effect. Crime-free housing program, the first full year of its operation. School resource officer program, a program has continued on for several years. Community relations and training unit, first full year. iWatch crime reporting program, first full year. Coffee with the Chief, going into its second year. Adopt a School program, first full year. Drug take-back program, first full year. Neighborhood Watch, an ongoing program. Not on My Campus, second year. Rape, aggression, and training program that teaches women how to defend themselves in regard to sexual assaults, first full year. That will be an ongoing program, and in this past year, we started to offer it to city employees as well. Camp Power and Power Academy, of course, our inaugural year was 2014, but the new part of that program is going to be called Power Up, and that's going to be a program that addresses middle school age children, a little bit different than we did for the grade school age children. National Night Out, an ongoing program. Heroes and Helpers, an ongoing program. The Domestic Violence Unit, the first full year of operation, and the Targeted Response Unit, the first full year of operation. And I know there's a little bit of a narrative attached to this, and I'm going to try to summarize this as best I can. This slide depicts two different categories, the Records Division and the Communications Division. And really, the Records Division, what it's all about is every document, every police report, everything that someone requests as a legal or formal document from the police department is basically going through our Records Division. And I think the summary of the numbers is fairly impressive and, to me, somewhat scary at times. We had over 1,061 exactly Freedom of Information requests. That's more than all other city departments combined. 75 subpoenas for reports, 365 subpoena for requests for 911 recordings, 715 requests for police videos, 311 requests for photos, 2,181 copies of reports for the state's attorney's office, 663 background investigations or background requests for other government agencies, and over 9,000 police reports were processed. And that was done by one full-time, one part-time, and another full-time whose part of their job is to do that. So really, I would equate it to about 2 people doing that job. And honest to God, I don't know how it gets done. Communications, let's switch it a little bit. The communications that's really the brain trust of the police department as far as getting calls and getting them out for service. In 2014, the police department responded to 44,537 police calls for service. That was a 7% increase as compared to the previous year in 2013, where we had 41,598. Now remember, those calls are run the gamut. Emergencies, non-emergencies, simple offenses, suspicious parties, serious felonies, crimes in progress, you name it. And those dispatchers or those telecommunicators are in there trying to triage those calls based on the demands for service, and how many resources we have on the street, and get them out to the right folks. So they do that not only for police, they do it on occasion for public works, but we definitely work in concert and do it for the fire department as well. In 14, we also had 19,767 911 calls, a 43% increase as compared to last year. And I'm going to try and explain that for you in just a second. As compared to the year 2013, where we had 13,865. Also, in regard to fire events, we had 5,336 fire events, a slight decrease, down 2% from 2013, where we had 5,448. Now let me try to explain a little bit about how I look at why there's an increase in the number of calls for service. First and foremost, our new system, our OSSI software system, captures more data now. And the example I'll use tonight is, if someone witnesses, or if multiple subjects witness a fairly serious motor vehicle accident, you might receive 4 or 5 calls on that same incident. Where our old system couldn't capture the data as effectively, the new system does. So every time a call comes in, even if it's multiple calls on one incident, it's captured. Now some people might say, well, that shouldn't count. If you have 4 calls for one incident, it shouldn't count. And I would respectfully disagree. Certainly, for the officers on the street, they appreciate that 4 or 5 calls only equal one actual incident at times. And that's not always the case, but at times. But that telecommunicator inside that radio room, that communication center, regardless of if it's the 4th call on an accident or not, still has to process that call. So that person is still taking that call, making sure it's not a different incident, making sure units are responding, but they're all processing the same. I think in the years to come, we'll be able to define the trends a little bit better. One thing I also did for the upcoming year, I've asked Frontier, our phone service provider, to start accounting for all of the other calls, non-emergency and the like, that come into the police department, like requests for information that go in through the communication center. I expect in the years ahead, you will see significant numbers, 8 to 10 to 12,000 or more calls that are go undocumented, not because of our system, but because of the way the phone company processes it. And when that occurs, I think the numbers will be staggering. What the next slide represents is just, we basically have our city divided into 3 zones. Everything south of the tracks, south of basically Lincoln Highway, but south of the railroad tracks, is Zone 3 for the police. Basically, everything north of Lincoln Highway and east of First is Zone 2, and everything north of Lincoln Highway and west of First is Zone 1. Now, in Zone 2 and 3, we noted a decrease in calls for service. However, in Zone 1, our most densely populated area of the city, we experienced a 28% increase. I would say the only thing noteworthy about that, again, is new system, new way to capture things, but we do experience more calls than we have in the past. And the other part of that equation is this. Excuse me. Anytime you build bridges and partnerships with your community and you put programs in place that ask them to communicate with you, like iWatch, or put a community relations program out there that tells people, why they should call the police instead of ignoring situations in their neighborhood, and that starts to work its way through the community, you're going to have more calls for service. Let me address the accidents for 2014. Total number of accidents. 2014 saw a fairly low amount of accidents by comparison to the preceding 4 years going back to 2010. In 2010, we had 1,496 accidents. In 2012, we dropped down to 1,277, a decrease of 14%. So the summary is this: if you want to know when to stay off the streets, it's a Friday that experienced the most accidents in 2014. The highest accident frequency was between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m., and the total number of accidents dropped as compared to 2010, again, by 14%. I want to talk to you real briefly about Part 1 crimes. Now, when I look at Part 1 crimes under the Uniform Crime Reporting Act, Part 1 crimes are the most serious crimes that a community, a city, a state faces. They're your more serious felonies. As you can see, the categories are homicide, criminal sexual assault, robbery, aggravated battery or assault, burglary, theft, motor vehicle theft, and arson. Now, these categories aren't built by local police agencies, they're built by the federal government. And I always forewarn anyone when I talk about statistics, like staggering numbers, like if you only had 2 offenses the year before and you have only 1 this year, you've had a 50% decrease. So the small numbers, you got to be very careful of. You know, if you tout only a percentage decrease or increase, it gets you in trouble. But I want to talk to you about 2 categories in Part 1s: criminal sexual assault and robbery. Criminal sexual assault was down by 23% compared to the previous year. That still meant we had 36 criminal sexual assaults in the city. But let me tell you, robbery is a big one for me. The preceding year, we had 27 robberies in 13. In 14, we were down to 13 robberies. That was a drop of 52%. And let me tell you, huge decrease. Huge decrease. There's a couple reasons for that. Our detective division, early in the year, took off a serial robbery crew that were responsible for more than 1 robbery. That cleared up several cases. But also, our partnership with NIU Police has really been a huge plus in that arena, where we're all putting cops on dots. We're putting officers where these events occur, and it's having an impact. And last but not least, certainly, is this is the end of the first full year of the proactive policing strategies that came to be in our original 2020 Vision for the Future plan that I came to council with in 2013. Again, Part 1 crimes ended at a 7% decrease as compared to the year before. And I'm going to go through Part 2 crimes real fast, and I'm going to try and summarize both 1 and 2. Again, Part 2 crimes kind of in the same boat. There are still serious felony offenses in Part 2 crimes as well. But as I look at Part 2 crimes, there's a couple that I guess I want to highlight for you and give you my view of why they are the way they are. The crime of deception, which usually involves some type of fraud or beguiling someone out of property or currency or something through some form of trickery or scam. In 2014, we had a 20% drop, which it doesn't seem like a lot, but when you look at the year before that, in 2013, there were 546, so we dropped over 100 incidents. Here's my theory on that. A lot of times, the elderly are victims of scams, con artists, and different illegally conceived initiatives of that nature. Well, when you start to put programs like Triad, and I don't know if the council recalls it or not, but Triad is a program that brings several resources to the table, several social service agencies, the police, and the elderly. And when you put all those together and they start collaborating and teaching one another about each other and putting out crime prevention programs, I think it prepares the community to prevent these scams. iWatch, again, community alerts going out on that. Again, another example of how we can make things safer in our community. One number that really stood out there was offenses involving children. And actually, I have to carry with me my reminder of the UCR codes. But those are involving primarily minor offenses like truancy, curfew, unlawful sale or delivery or possession of tobacco are probably the lion's share of that, although they were up. The last one I'll go through is the Controlled Substance Act, possession of narcotics other than cannabis, like cocaine, heroin, crack, methamphetamine, MDMA. In 2014, we had 173 cases, or a 44% increase. So let's go back to 12. In 2012, there were 72 cases. In 2013, there were 120, and in 2014, there were 173. There's a couple of reasons that happens. We have a very proactive and competent and professional patrol division. But last year was the first year our targeted response unit was on the street dealing with street crime, gangs, drugs, and guns. They have made more felony arrests in the year to 2 years of operation, probably historically, than any entity that was homegrown within the DeKalb Police Department ever. Proactive policing, targeted response unit, and intelligence-driven policing, a huge number. So here in part 2, 7% decrease in crime. So if I wanted to summarize real briefly, I could say 14% decrease in crime overall. But let me paint the picture a little better for you. I just put a chart up there, and again, I know it's difficult to read, and I apologize for that. But let's look at Part 1 crimes and the trend over the last 10 years. You know, it's easy to hunt and pick for something good, but let's talk about 10 years. I came to this department in May of 12, and I was challenged with the preceding year being the highest, most violent year in a decade in the city. We had peaked at 1,656 Part 1 crimes, and for a city this size, based on my 36 years of experience, it's way too much. In 3 years, those numbers have changed dramatically. Dramatically. Part 1 crimes peaked in 2011 and have decreased 19% as compared to 2014. So what does that mean? 1,656 crimes in 11 and 1,357 in 14? That's 299 fewer felonies. When I looked at it at first, I was going to say, you know what, that's almost a felony a day. But I'll tell you what, I'll take almost 300 less felonies in our city annually, any day of the week. Let's look at Part 2. Part 2 crimes, again, trending over 10 years. The peak year for Part 2s was 2008, and we peaked at 10,539 Part 2 crimes. Again, very high. That trend had a decrease going down due to the efforts of the police department and my predecessor over a 2-year period prior to that. In 2011, it was still going down. When I came here and we began the 2020 Vision of the Future plan, I came to the council and I said, the first year that plan's in operation, you're going to have an increase in Part 2s. And I don't know if anyone on the council remembers that, but I told the council it would happen. In 2012, we had an 8% increase in Part 2s, all because of a dedicated police force, men and women serving the city, and some proactive policing measures. Not rocket science, just trying to do the right thing and putting the police where they needed to be, doing the right thing. So what does that mean from the peak year of 2008 at 10,539 compared to 7,169 in 2014? There were 3,370 fewer cases per year of Part 2 crimes compared to our peak year in this last decade. So that means there were 9 fewer crimes a day in our city. 9 fewer crimes a day. We're about ready to close this out. and I want to touch base with you on the commendation and awards in 2014. In 2014, there were 25 commendations issued for superior performance and self-sacrifice in regard to cases involving DUI enforcement, burglary, narcotic seizures and arrests, weapons offenses, armed robbery, home invasion, drug-induced homicide, and the murder of a child. There were 7 awards, and awards are typically the next level up as opposed to commendations, issued for actions above and beyond the call of duty, for life-saving, valor, and one, in my first in my career, to ever give out a Medal of Honor. These incidents involved saving the life of an infant, courage in confronting an armed, barricaded subject, and interrupting an attempted murder in progress, ending the threat and performing life-saving measures on the victims. And as I look at that, I guess the point I want to make to the council is this, and I say it all the time, and I know you're probably tired of hearing it. In 36 years of service, having served at the local, county, and federal level, in 3 years in the United States Army, I have never served with finer men and women in policing ever. And it's not because I'm here, it's because they were raised right and they're doing the right job for the city. Programs are a good thing. Proactive police measures are a good thing. But without the people doing the right thing, they'll fail. And they have made the sacrifice for this community. And you remember me coming in here and talking to you before about calls for service? Because our department compared to other agencies? In 2014, we were still higher than Aurora and Elgin in calls for service by officer annually. I think that's really where the rubber meets the road. We owe them a great deal of thanks. And in closing, our last slide is this. 1 law enforcement officer is killed in the line of duty somewhere in the United States every 53 hours. In 2014, there were 126 law enforcement officers who died in the line of duty, a 24% increase from 2013. That's not good news. That's not good news. As I said in closing, police departments, law enforcement agencies across this country are facing unprecedented challenges, dealing with public trust, dealing with communities that are very upset with certain policing measures and certain police agencies. Right now, I have to say, thanks to our city for all the support we get. And we know we'll face challenging times ahead, but we'll face them head on and we'll do it professionally. And with that, council, I'll conclude my presentation, and if you have any questions, I'll address them.
Okay. Let's take a few moments. If individual aldermen, alderpersons have questions, I'll be glad to entertain those. Gene, I'd like to express appreciation for the efforts on the part of the entire department, but clearly it takes strong leadership to guide that objective, and I think the results you're presenting to us for 2014 show evidence not only of that leadership, but of the dedication that you speak to. And I know personally I'm very appreciative of that effort from the entire force. So thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll
Other
pass it on.
questions, observations, Alderman Naylor?
I don't have any questions, but just would like to echo those comments from the mayor to yourself, as well as all of the department employees out there. A great job. Your 2020 initiatives are really bearing some fruit out there, and I think the entire city is appreciative of the improvements that we are seeing in the police and policing actions and the results of the various programs that have been implemented over the past few years on it. It's a great job.
Thank you, Alderman.
Okay. Thank you, Gene.
Thank you.
Let's move next to the second consideration, the fire department 2014 report. I'll turn to Chief Hicks.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. It's an honor to present the 2014 annual report for the DeKalb Fire Department tonight. This is a opportunity to showcase what our personnel have accomplished throughout the year. So I'm going to go through and talk about some of the highlights from 2014. One of the big highlights we had in 2014 was the purchase and implement use of a safety trailer. And we're going to talk about that when we get down a little farther. The city has went many years without having one of these tools to use out for fire prevention, and we were able to obtain one of those and with some grant funding and through some general fund purchases, and that has been through many different public education events throughout the city. Also, we were able to secure funds through the negotiations of the NIU contract for a purchase of a ladder truck. That ladder truck is currently set to arrive in August, and that's going to replace a 26-year-old ladder truck. We also ran into a situation throughout the year, which was Ebola. We ended up spending about 3 weeks preparing the department and the different departments for a possible outbreak of Ebola, and we also were able to secure a cache of personal protective equipment in case something like that would happen throughout the city. We also spent a lot of time upgrade on our response plans. Currently, like the police, we have 3 different districts, and we did some evaluation to see if we could improve our response plans, and we were able to do so, and also even out the call load throughout the districts. Through grant funding, we were able to institute the purchase of body armor, and with some training with the police, we have a very good active shooter program now. And that program has been looked at through many departments throughout the state. Also, community notification system Code Red was enacted. Currently, that is resided within the police, but we did get that going last year. And I have brought our Assistant Chief Jeff McMaster tonight, who's going to talk about training. We were able to provide 18,918 hours of training to our personnel. We wanted to make sure that they're ready to respond, so we're going to talk about that a little bit later. A little bit about the fire department budget. Current budget is $9.414 million. About 4% of that goes to non-personnel. So we operate a very lean organization. Just wanted to let that out there. Our personnel last year was, we had 1 new hire, and that filled a swing shift position, which was approved in 2013. We finally got up to full staffing, and you'll see the budget reductions from that swing shift on a monthly basis. We had no retirements in 2014. Talk about the ladder truck purchase. The ladder truck purchase, like I say, that's going to be here in August. That was something that's sorely needed here in the city, and we're excited to see that come. As far as apparatus, the second piece of apparatus we did, it was a safety trailer. That's been in events like Corn Fest, Camp Power, National Night Out, 4th Street Fun Fest, the Firehouse, the Fire Department Open House, and numerous schools. We figure we've trained thousands of kids with that so far. Fire prevention. To start out the year, we worked with the stakeholders throughout the last 6 months, creating the commercial inspection program, finalizing that in February of this year. We also were able to upgrade our Knox Box program, which was doing some e-verification and also putting the Knox boxes online. And with that, we've been able to help the customer service division for many downtown residents that do purchase Knox boxes. We completed the transition firehouse to paperless, and we were able to do that for all inspections now. All our inspections are paperless, and everything is emailed on the spot, so there is no paper. With the downturn of the, with the changeover of the building department, we did do some, take over some additional property maintenance duties, so we did up our inspections. So we did do 634 inspections last year, finding 2,437 violations corrected. As I talked about earlier before, we were able to do some work on our station response areas. We currently have 3 different response areas, which is Station 1, Station 2, and 3. And you'll see the 1, 2, and 3 on the map there. And that is the current response areas that we have reestablished, which has somewhat evened the call load out, but it's also improved the response times to those areas. You'll see a 2.2% increase in calls. The first number you'll see in the first report on your backup report had a missed number in it. The current number is in your printed book. So we had 5,325 calls. After the data scrubbed, I believe the police chief had a few more on that, but we had to account for the double calls and missed calls on that. So the actual call was 5,325, it's a 2.2 increase. Calls by incident. And if you'll, on your monthly report we put out, it's 74%, and that's pretty much what it's been consistently throughout the year. And we run about 3% fires. So 151 fires, 3,945 ambulance calls, with the majority of calls. Hazardous conditions were 4% with 179, and those conditions are such as wires down, arcing wires, could be a smoking ballast, something like that. Service calls, those are such calls as someone needs assistance up, needs a lift, lockouts, things like that. And then we had the overpressure in no fire conditions, so those were accounted for 11% of our calls. We'll talk about the calls by year and type of call. Last year we had 151 fires, which is slightly down from 2013. Our overpressure and excessive heat was up by 50%. That was 11 from 6 the year before. Our EMS calls, which are our greatest rise, were 3,615. Motor vehicle accidents were up from the year before. I know the police, the police department showed down, but we were actually called to more motor vehicle accidents than we were the year before. So we had 315. We had 15 rescue calls, which is the same as the previous year. Our hazardous conditions, we were down 179. So last year was not as bad a storm year, so that really cuts down our hazardous conditions call. Our public service calls, which like say our lift assist for EMS, were 350, which is about a 100% increase from the year prior. Good intent, 161, and that's for calls such as water leaks, lockouts, like I said before, and we had 526 false alarms. Weather accounted for 2 of our calls, and when we say weather, that means we were out doing some kind of storm check or damage assessment. In 2014, I'm going to go over our EMS calls by response level. So like I said, we seen 3,917 patients were seen. Of those, 1,565 were basic life support. And what basic life support means is basically we went, they could have got a Band-Aid, they could have got oxygen or some basic kind of care. As far as ALS-1 received 1,442 calls, and ALS-1 is advanced life support, where you receive an IV, a 12V EKG, or some advanced kind of medical care. And ALS-2 is basically accounted for 332 calls, and those are calls such as advanced life support, along with advanced airway and advanced drug usage. The calls by the day of the week. Over the last 2 years, Friday has been our busiest day. And the reason we track this is we want to know when we have to upstaff or add additional staffing, so we try to keep a close eye on day of the week and time of the day. So if we know we have to do it in additional staffing levels. Incidents by a day an hour, and between 2 and 6 p.m. over the last 2 years have been the highest calls load that the fire department receives. The slowest time of day is normally early in the morning, around 3 to 5 o'clock in the morning. Simultaneous calls. The reason we track simultaneous calls is we want to know how many times a year our stations are empty. And with 4 or more simultaneous calls going on, our stations were empty about 120 times last year. So we had either personnel coming from home to respond on that 4th call, or we had Sycamore over here assisting with that call. We feel that's a very important number to see exactly how our staffing level is doing. Our fire loss for 2014. We had just over $1 million of fire loss, which is pretty consistent with the prior year. If you'll see the two spikes in calendar year 10 and calendar year 02, we had some high dollar losses in those years. One of those years we had about a $4 million machine get burned up. So you can see we're pretty consistent, a little over $1 million in fire loss. I'm going to introduce Assistant Chief Jeff Campasser, who's going to talk about our special operations and training.
Thank you, Chief. A little bit about your special operations. There are several special operations teams that support the core mission for the fire department. Some of those are hazardous materials, technical rescue, fire investigation, public education. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight some of what they have done over the year. To start out with, as you can see, we have hazardous materials. And a little bit about our hazardous materials and our technical rescue team. They are the keystone for MABUS Division 6, which is essentially DeKalb County, meaning that the keystone, we supply the majority of the manpower and equipment to operate those special teams. So with hazardous materials, their highlight call, amongst others, was an anhydrous ammonia leak that they went on, large leak that they had to mitigate. Also, they had worked with the DeKalb County LEPC and to assist them in exercising the DeKalb County Emergency Response Plan. And so what they did was a large-scale event that exercised everything from communications to response to mitigation of a call, and it dealt with a truck with multiple unknown chemicals. This took place in cooperation with DeKalb Taylor Municipal Airport. Technical rescue. They're responsible for responding to confined space, structural collapse, high-angle rescues, specialized emergencies and rescues of that sort. Last year, their highlight call, amongst others, was a 4-alarm grain bin entrapment in Genoa, Kingston. That was a high visibility incident all within the state of Illinois. Also, they conducted 2 5-hour training sessions to enhance their expertise knowledge. And then they also enhanced the safety equipment on Rescue 6, which is their primary response vehicle for responding to technical rescue incidents. Public education. Public education is a very busy team within the fire department. And if you can imagine, they're responsible for providing fire education to everybody from preschoolers up to senior citizens. This can be within the station, going out to a special event, or going to a school. And some of the trainings that you could see or education that they provided was extinguisher training, assisting with fire drills, providing station tours, and Touch a Truck. And what Touch a Truck is this allows the fire companies to go out into the community where children and adults alike get to talk to the firefighters, look at the fire trucks, and look at the equipment inside of the fire trucks. Other activities also include being involved in community activities, parades, and other such community-wide events. A little bit about training. Training is one of the backbones to the fire service, including equipment preparation and good customer service. Now, there's 2 different kinds of trainings for the DeKalb Fire Department. There's in-department training and outside training. And when we look at outside training, we're talking, it is broken down into 3 different tiers. Tier 1 is core firefighting training. Tier 2 is specialized training, such as officer development or special teams or special ops training, and that includes technical rescue, hazardous materials, or fire investigation. And Tier 3 is elective training. This is important training because this allows the firefighter to take training classes that are of personal interest to them for their development. Also, this allows them to take classes that pertain to career advancement. So that's your 3 different tiers as far as outside training. One of the goals of the DeKalb Fire Department in 2015 is to increase the amount of training that firefighters go to. One of the ways that this will be increased is with the hiring of the swing shift personnel that concluded last year in 2014. So that's been instrumental in allowing firefighters to attend outside classes. A pie chart just shows that, that most of the training is focused, outside training is focused on elective training, while the other large portions are to officer development and special operations training. Now, a little bit about our in-house training. This is the training that takes place in the fire stations on a daily basis. Okay? As you can see there, they go through extensive EMS training, continuing education that's mandated by IDPH. This included last year advanced cardiac life support. Okay? This happens on a regular basis. They also went through organized building tours. Acquired structures is important to the fire department. Firefighters train in station, but it's important that the firefighters get out and actually train in buildings that are not familiar to them. So they get to go out into different houses or different buildings within the community. We've increased our training with the police department. We've also finished our mandated OSHA training, which once again is mandated annually. They also went through several special operation tech days involved in large-scale drills, multiple fire operation drills, including ladder raises, hose deployment, search and rescue, ventilation, and then hundreds of hours of self-directed company-level training. And what self-directed company-level training is that where these companies, they get together, they identify what their weaknesses are, and then they come up with their own training to strengthen that. So that's very important as well. A little bit more about what they do in training. Some things that your fire department does is ice rescue practicals, bailout devices. Okay, bailing out is practicing how to repel out of a burning building. Behavioral health, we continue to train annually on not only keeping firefighters physically healthy, but to keep them mentally healthy. Comprehensive fire streams, radiological training. A highlight last year was high-rise operations classes. This is where the firefighters took in-depth high-rise fire operations classes, and then in cooperation with NIU last year, they went out to high-rises, and they actually, in full turnout gear with all their equipment, hiked up 8 floors to provide, and then provided search and rescue and other evolutions. We also do aircraft rescue firefighting, auto extrication, concealed carry. When the laws went in for concealed carry last year, the police department assisted us with giving the firefighters comprehensive training on how to deal with lawfully carried handguns. And then, of course, we went through Ebola virus disease in service and ambulance preparation. With that, I'm going to turn you back over to Fire Chief Hicks. Thank you.
And again, excellent service. Our citizens in the community can feel comfortable in having that resource available in those emergencies. So thank you very much for that service.
Thank you.
Impressive.
Okay. Thank you for both those reports, and recognizing the hour, unless there's further discussion, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a
Second.
second? Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Carried. We will reconvene. Give us a 5-minute break and we'll be back for the regular meeting. So April 27th, and ask for a roll call.
Jacobson. Fanouken.
Here.
Lash.
Here.
Snow.
Here.
Naylor.
Here.
Baker.
Here.
O'Leary. Ray.
Here?
6 aye.
Thank you. And I have heard from Alderman Jacobson this evening, he does not plan to attend this evening's meeting. I have not heard from Alderman O'Leary as of this point. I'd like to ask Webelos Pack 173 to lead us in presenting the colors and ask you to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand for the flag ceremony. Color guard attention. Color guard advance. Color guard halt. Color guard post the colors. Place your hand on your heart. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Color guard retreat. Color guard dismissed.
Thank you very much for that ceremony this evening. We have before us the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, I'll ask a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
And is there a
Second.
second? Moved and seconded. I'll ask for a roll call.
Jacobson. Fanouken.
Yes.
Lash.
Yes.
Snow.
Yes.
Naylor.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
O'Leary. Ray.
Yes.
6 aye.
Thank you. The first item, we have two public hearings this evening. The first public hearing is being held for the purpose of considering a project for which financial assistance is being sought from the Illinois Department of Transportation pursuant to its capital grants program. Both the City of DeKalb and DeKalb County are submitting capital assistance applications to the Illinois Department of Transportation to partially fund the construction of a new transit facility. So at this point, I will open a public hearing for the City of DeKalb capital assistance application to the Illinois Department of Transportation in the amount of $3 million for the initial development of a new transit facility. Are there individuals wishing to speak to the topic? Mr. Zucker, if you could come forward to the podium, please, and speak into the microphone.
Thank you, Mayor Ray. I'm Tom Zucker. I'm the Executive Director of Voluntary Action Center, and I live at 1203 Gifford Street in DeKalb. And I would like to offer a few comments in the public hearing, actually for both the city's public hearing and as well as the county's. I would like to express my gratitude to the DeKalb City Council, city staff, as well as the DeKalb County Board and county staff for scheduling this public hearing and for your consideration of the resolution before you tonight. Thank you as well for your support for public and community transportation. I would like to speak in support of approving the resolution before you tonight that will enable the city, the county, and VAC to move forward with construction of a new public transportation facility that will meet the needs of residents in DeKalb County for many years to come. Public and community transportation services provide a vital lifeline for thousands of DeKalb residents, including several thousand City of DeKalb and City of Sycamore residents, enabling them to get to and from a variety of community facilities and resources. These services provide a dependable, affordable, and accessible means for residents to get to work, school, medical appointments, for shopping, and many other destinations that support essential activities of daily living. For those that are transit dependent, including senior citizens, persons with disabilities, those without a car, and those that can't drive, public and community transportation services meet needs that few, if any, other local resources could meet. VAC has been directly involved in providing public and community transportation services countywide for more than 40 years. There's been a phenomenal growth in ridership over those years, and demand continues to grow. There have been many mileposts in the evolution of these services, but probably none more significant than the construction of the current public transportation facility in 1988. That project was made possible with a grant from the Federal Urban Mass Transportation Administration, now called the Federal Transportation Administration, to DeKalb County. The facility was built on land that was donated to VAC by DeKalb Ag. The new facility consolidated all of VAC's transit operations, vehicle maintenance functions, and program administration under one roof, resulting in much more efficient and professional operations, and enabled us to expand services, helped in no small part by increased state and federal grant opportunities that flow through the City of DeKalb and DeKalb County. Ridership grew from 50-some thousand rides in 1988 to last year's record ridership of nearly 230,000 rides. We're on schedule to top that number this year. This illustrates the value that a consolidated and state-of-the-art public transportation facility brings to public and community transportation operations. The current public transportation facility, now 27 years old, is significantly undersized at 13,000 square feet and is not capable of any expansion or increased growth or demand. The site, originally designed to accommodate approximately 25 transit vehicles, cannot accommodate the current fleet of 41 vehicles. The site is severely overused and is lacking in both parking and general circulation. This was confirmed by the SRF Consulting Group in a facility study completed in 2010. With an additional input from LSA Design Incorporated, initial plans for a new facility of approximately 60,000 square feet were detailed. With this information, the City of DeKalb and DeKalb County government submitted applications to the Illinois Department of Transportation for capital grants to construct a new facility. In addition, VAC requested that DeKalb County government consider committing a piece of property for the project, and the DeKalb County Board subsequently did so with a resolution that commits a property located at approximately Peace Road and County Farm Road for the project. IDOT awarded the City of DeKalb a grant in the amount of $3 million and a grant to DeKalb County for $550,000 for the new facility. No matching funds are required for these grants. The resolution before you tonight requests that IDOT obligate those funds, which will enable the project to move forward. On April 1st of this year, several members of the Illinois Public Transportation Association met with the new Illinois Secretary of Transportation, Randy Blankenhorn, to discuss a number of transit-related issues, including the likelihood of IDOT obligating funds for these capital project awards. As a member of the IPTA board, I attended this meeting, and we were encouraged by the Secretary to move forward with a request to obligate these funds. The city, in collaboration with VAC and DeKalb County government, are in the process of completing a Tiger Grant application that will request funds necessary to complete the project, estimated to be approximately $17 million. While the last two Tiger Grant applications that we submitted were not funded, they received favorable reviews, and we are hopeful that this revised and improved application will be successful. We've been encouraged to move forward with the funding we have by the U.S. Department of Transportation, the Federal Transit Administration, IDOT, as well as 3 Illinois Transit District managers that have recently completed new transit facility projects with similar funding sources. They include MetroLink in the Quad Cities, the Springfield Mass Transit District, and the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District. Insights provided by all of these entities include that we will have increased leverage for more funding once a project is underway. It is an objective of the project to fund it completely with federal and state capital grants. The 2 state grants that we will ask IDOT to obligate if you approve the resolution before you tonight, along with the value of local in-kind contributions provided by DeKalb County government that include value of the land that has been committed and improvements to Barber Green Road that are planned by DeKalb County for the benefit of the new facility, will provide the matching funds required by the federal Tiger Grant. We will not be asking local units of government to provide funds for the project. You all do enough now by helping to provide some funding for operations, and we believe it is the role of the federal and state government to provide infrastructure for transit, and we believe we can successfully complete the project with these funds. These grants will provide an opportunity for the city of DeKalb, DeKalb County, VAC, and others to collaborate on a project that will significantly enhance and improve public and community transportation that will benefit residents of DeKalb County, including City of DeKalb residents and NIU students. I encourage the DeKalb City Council and the DeKalb County Board to approve the resolution before you. I also urge IDOT to obligate these funds from the grant awards as soon as possible. Thanks again to the DeKalb City Council, city staff, as well as DeKalb County Board, county staff, for your support of public and community transportation. Thank you, Mayor Ray.
Thank you, Tom. Other individuals wish to speak in the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll herewith close the public hearing for the city of DeKalb at this time. The second public hearing I'd like to open is DeKalb County Capital Assistance Application to the Illinois Department of Transportation in the amount of $550,000 for the initial development of a new transit facility. And I would advise the public that the DeKalb County application is in the amount of $550,000 and not the $3 million noted in the agenda. This public hearing is being held for the purpose of considering a project for which financial assistance is being sought from the Illinois Department of Transportation pursuant to its capital grants program. Both the City of DeKalb and DeKalb County are submitting capital assistance applications to the Illinois Department of Transportation to partially fund the construction of a new transit facility. I would ask if there are any individuals wishing to speak at this point in the public hearing on the DeKalb County Capital Assistance application. Seeing none, I will herewith close the public hearing for DeKalb County Capital Assistance and move on. Special items this evening. Is there someone present from Airport Advisory Board? Emery, have we heard from Tom Cleveland or anyone?
They were supposed to be here tonight. I would make a suggestion if they're not able to be here to move this to the May 11th meeting so that the proper recognition can be given.
Okay. Let's go ahead and I'll accept that suggestion and move this recognition to our May 11th agenda. And I would note at this point that I understand there's no one possible to attend from the government finance officers, so we'll be moving that item item C under special items to May 11th as well. Bringing us to the recognition of Paul Callaghan, Commonwealth Edison External Affairs Manager. I'll ask Paul to come forward as I have a certificate of recognition to read this evening. And this is being presented to Paul Callaghan in recognition of his retirement from Commonwealth Edison on March 20th, 2015, after 31 years of service. His professional responsibilities, including district manager for the DeKalb Operating Center and external affairs manager for DeKalb and Winnebago counties, as well as his civic involvement as director, vice president, and president of the DeKalb County Economic Development Corporation, has been an asset to our community that is greatly appreciated in the city of DeKalb, Illinois. Presented under the seal of the city of DeKalb this 27th day of April, 2015, signed myself as mayor, city of DeKalb. Paul?
Thank you, Paul. Enjoy your retirement.
Paul, before you're seated, we do have a sign of recognition for you. Callaghan Court.
We will rename the
Thank you for
street
that
later.
service.
The street will be renamed later, Paul.
We're not going to put it up on the wall here for.
Moving to our next item, we have Family Service Agency Human Service Funding Annual Report by Executive Director Dave Miller and Senior Service Program Manager Diana King.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for having us this evening. As Mayor Ray mentioned, my name is David Miller. I'm the Executive Director. Diana King is our Senior Services Director for the agency. And we're here to talk to you a little bit about our senior center at 330 Grove Street. First of all, I want to again thank you for your continued support as we work to serve the rapidly growing senior population in our area. I think everybody's aware that as the baby boomers age, the population of 60 and older is going to just grow exponentially along the way. We also want to thank you for allowing us to use the added space at the 330 Grove site. That has made a significant difference in the programs we're allowed to offer the seniors. And they were very excited when we were able to tell them that we indeed have that space and they can use it. Diana's going to give you a brief presentation in a moment about some of the uses we've been able to accomplish because of that added space. At Senior Services, we believe that every senior in our community deserves to be independent, safe, and live with dignity. And we do this through promoting physical, mental, and social well-being in our senior population. Every day, we have between 35 and 50 seniors attend our senior center, depending on the program. And within a given month, we have 100. Every month, we have over 100 unique individual seniors that use our facility along the way. We do this through offering a variety of programs and activities. We have exercise programs such as Wii Bowling, chair yoga, Tai Chi that they participate in. We develop book clubs and discussion groups. We have meals where we work with VAC on monthly breakfasts and daily lunches for the seniors. And then we also offer a monthly dinner for the seniors on a potluck basis. We do field trips. We have spelling bees. Our whole purpose of our program is to keep them active and going so that they can stay independent, because we all know that living at their homes and not being isolated is much more cost-effective than having seniors go on to more advanced care. We have a few new things coming up. We just started our computer lab for seniors. We were able to get a donation from the Kishwaukee Sunrise Rotary. And we're able to install several computers at the senior center so that we can have classes on how to use that computers and internet and email so that they can communicate with their families. We're starting up an intergenerational program between Big Brothers Big Sisters and the seniors so they can learn about each other. We're also looking at moving outside our walls with some of our program offerings and taking our programs to locations where the seniors are if they cannot get to our senior center. And we're also helping several seniors find more permanent housing than they currently have. So that's a brief overview of some of the things that we've done with the support of the city. Diana's going to show you a slideshow on some of the programs we've been able to offer with the expanded space. Thank you.
I too want to thank you. The added space has been wonderful. It's allowed us to not only expand on our current programming, but to bring in new programming and to offer multiple programs that going on at the same time. So this is just a brief presentation. I had about 20 slides in there because I wanted to show you everything, and Dave made me trim it down. So this is what we've been able to do with our added space. It's what it's been enabled us to do. So we have Tai Chi. We have the chair yoga, as Dave had mentioned. These are some of the crafts that we're doing. We did a cake decorating and an Easter egg decorating. Art, this has been wonderful. We have an NIU art major that's doing the art classes for us. Our needle workers, and they donate everything that they make back to the community. I want to say last year it was roughly 1,800 items they donated back. Bingo, of course, that's very popular. We had a Christmas party, and we had a group of young students come in and sing for our seniors. Card players. And when we moved our card players to the new space, we were a little leery because we thought, oh, they're going to feel like we're pushing them to the other side. They love it. It's enabled them to have a quiet space to play their cards. They don't have all the interruptions. So it's been good. As Dave mentioned, we have more things, additional programs that are in the work. We actually have our history club going. We've got a book club that we're working with the DeKalb Library to get started. Mahjong, we have educational series with topics such as healthy living, life journals, estate planning, various crafts, including stamping, and we're doing a memory photo album. So we're really excited, and we're really able to offer a lot more to our seniors with this added space. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Dave. And I do have a question for Diana. It was interesting to me to note that you have the art program beginning at the senior center. Is that plugged into Mardi Gras, which is being hosted this Saturday?
No, but we did pass that information on to Henry, the art student that's teaching the
Excellent.
class.
Okay, good. Because I would hope in the future there might be an opportunity to have some
Absolutely.
cross-generational input to that event. Very good. Other questions from council? Alderman Snow.
I just want to take the opportunity to commend the program. I have had occasion to go over and see how the space is being used, and I've observed several of these programs. I think it's a great program for the senior citizens and for the community, and so I just wanted to commend your operation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions or discussion? Seeing none, thank you both for the report this evening. Thank you. Moving to DeKalb County Partnership for a Substance Abuse Free Environment Human Services Funding Annual Report by Prevention Specialist Matt Miller.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Matt Miller. I work for the Ben Gordon Center, and I'm also the DCP Safe Coordinator. My title is a Prevention Specialist, Substance Abuse Prevention Specialist. The DeKalb County Partnership for a Substance Abuse-Free Environment, DCP Safe, and Prevention Education would like to thank the City of DeKalb for awarding us human service funding that provides additional support for the coalition to work towards reducing alcohol and substance abuse in DeKalb County youth population. In the past fiscal year, some of the most significant reports regarding DCP Safe included hosting the 25th Annual Assembly, for the coalition, the work of DCP Safe's youth action groups within the local high schools, and presentations to various community businesses and schools. DCP Safe works with many local organizations, such as Family Service Agency, which graciously provides us with a meeting space for the coalition on a bi-monthly basis, and Ferranda's Banquet Center, where we actually hosted the 25th annual assembly, which had 100 people in attendance. This annual assembly was actually able to recognize leaders in the community. We were able to update the community on the efforts of the coalition in terms of substance abuse prevention, and really give a forum for and the opportunity to give thanks to those who support prevention efforts in DeKalb County. Red Ribbon Week was also a significant event that embraced high school participation to raise awareness on how to keep communities safe and to eliminate substance abuse. DCP Safe's incorporation of youth and reducing alcohol substance abuse include the youth action groups participating in Red Ribbon Week at each of the schools, conducting their own prevention efforts with supervision from the coalition. DCP Safe participated in the National Night Out safety event at Target this past summer. And for the third quarter specifically, we continued to run radio ads on B95 each month to increase awareness on underage drinking and substance abuse, as well as the 40 developmental assets, among other community issues. DCP Safe participates in many health fairs and presentations throughout DeKalb County and obviously the city of DeKalb, such as the DeKalb Wellness Fair that we had just last week. DCP Safe actually oversees high school youth action groups. Now, these youth action groups are working towards incorporating substance abuse and whether it be alcohol or other substances, working that into their culture, into their own high schools. And DeKalb High School's youth action group actually has 20 student participants. The coalition also oversees a marijuana-based communication campaign, which is directed towards youth in high schools to kind of let the students know that there is a perceived risk with marijuana usage, and it also focuses on their parents as well in high schools, focusing on the parental communication regarding marijuana and how it does have an adverse effect on those students' lives. So once again, DCP Safe would like to thank you and providing the support for the coalition to work towards reducing alcohol and substance abuse issues in DeKalb County's youth. It really is a pleasure working with everyone here and working in the prevention efforts. So thank you. Any questions?
Matt, thanks for your leadership with the DCP Safe program. I was involved with the initial DCP Safe assembly. DeKalb Ag was a significant contributor to that and have participated over the years. So very much appreciate the work that you do in our community, certainly with our young people in our schools as well.
Thank you.
Other questions, discussion for Matt? Hearing none, thank you for your report this evening, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do have proclamation this evening. I've got three, in fact, to read. The first of which is the Blue Bow Campaign for Child Abuse Prevention. Whereas child abuse is a community problem and finding solutions depends on involvement from the community, and whereas statistics of children who are abused and neglected escalate each year, last year DeKalb County had 902 reported cases. And whereas effective child abuse prevention programs succeed because of partnerships created among the courts, social service agencies, schools, religious organizations, law enforcement, and the business community. And whereas Children's Home and Aid, offering positive parenting alternatives to help break the cycle of abuse, is sponsoring a Blue Bow campaign to heighten awareness of the need to support families. And whereas all citizens should become more aware of child abuse within the community and to become involved in its prevention and supporting parents to raise their children in a safe, nurturing environment. And therefore, I, John A. Ray, Mayor of the City of DeKalb, do hereby proclaim my support for April 2015 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens to increase their participation in efforts to prevent child abuse. thereby strengthening the communities in which we live. Signed, John A. Ray, Mayor. And I would like to note, Dave, I believe Family Service Agency as well participates in the Blue Bow campaign, Child Abuse Prevention Month. Is there someone here? Thank you. And you're with Children's Home? I am. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Lisa? The second proclamation is Municipal Clerks Week, May 3rd through 9th, 2015. Whereas the office of the municipal clerk, a time-honored and vital part of local government, exists throughout the world, and whereas the office of municipal clerk is the oldest among public servants, and whereas the office of the municipal clerk, serving in the spaces between governance and administration, provides the professional link between the citizens, the local governing bodies, and agencies of government at other levels. And whereas municipal clerks have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all in the DeKalb community. And whereas the municipal clerk serves as the information center for city records and the functions of local government and community, and whereas municipal clerks continually strive to improve the administration of the affairs of the office of the municipal clerk through participation in education programs, seminars, workshops, and the annual meetings of their state, province, county, and international professional organizations. Now therefore, I, John Ray, Mayor of the City of DeKalb, do recognize the week of May 3rd through May 9th, 2015 as Municipal Clerks Week. And I'll present that to Marcia at this point. And I'd like to thank Marcia for her service as interim city clerk with us in DeKalb. Thank you, Marcia. The final proclamation this evening is in recognition of Public Service Week. Whereas Americans are served every single day by public servants at the federal, state, county, and city levels, these unsung heroes do the work that keeps our nation working. And whereas many public servants, including military personnel, police officers, firefighters, Border Patrol officers, embassy employees, healthcare professionals, and others, risk their lives each day in service to the people of the United States and around the world. Whereas day in and day out they provide the diverse services demanded by the American people of their government with efficiency and integrity. And whereas without these public servants at every level, continuity would be impossible in a democracy that regularly changes its leaders and elected officials. Now therefore, I, John A. Ray, Mayor of the City of DeKalb, do hereby announce and proclaim to all citizens and set seal hereto that May 3rd through May 9th, 2015 is Public Service Recognition Week. All citizens are encouraged to recognize the accomplishments and contributions of government employees at all levels, federal, state, county, and city. And dated April 27, 2015, signed John A. Ray, Mayor. City Manager, would you like to come forward, please? And pass on the recognition to the entire staff. Thank you. Okay, moving to citizen comments. I've got Dwayne Brown wishing to speak.
Yes, Dwayne Brown. At the April 13th meeting, there was, on the agenda was the compensation vote, which was to eliminate the compensation time for 33 salaried employees. And this was voted down in the second reading. And later, it was noted that there was a closed-door meeting, and it came up as a reconciliation vote, and after obviously some arm twisting, it was passed unanimously. This type of meeting is, although legal, is appalling, is improper, is unnecessary, and unacceptable. This isn't 1937 Nazi Germany. This is a public meeting on a public subject that the public should be present on. And I commend one of the aldermen. He had the intestinal fortitude to walk out of it. Unfortunately, the others didn't. This involves taking the comp time for 2014, which is $317,000, increasing the 33 employees that are affected to a 40-hour work week or more, which would be about $150,000 and change, with a net savings of $170,000, which sounds good if the comp time remains the same, if the productivity increases are achieved, and if the savings actually happen, come to bear. But the public not being there, you know, it's just unacceptable. It's unacceptable. I hope in the future this isn't done. I mean, this must have been a midnight meeting. I was at the meeting and I had gone, so you know, this shouldn't happen. I hope in the future that all the councilmen will table this till the next meeting and not let this happen again. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Dwayne. I would like to clarify, Dwayne, you commented that a vote was taken in closed session. I would like to clarify that there was no vote taken in closed session. Council adjourned the closed meeting, came back into public session, at which time the reconsideration of the earlier motion was on the floor. That motion passed and the votes were taken in public disclosure, public meeting.
If I may, Mayor,
yes.
also add to that Alderman Jacobson was here in the council chambers and abstained from voting when his name was called, and therefore the abstention goes with the prevailing side. So Alderman Jacobson did vote, and then I believe he left the building.
Thank you.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Just kind of a lesson for the public and the council. When somebody abstains and it goes with the majority, then they do have that right for reconsideration. And I don't think Alderman Jacobson understood that when he jumped to me for not being at the meeting. I told him all he had to do was reconsider it, but unfortunately he didn't make it tonight. So hopefully everybody learns from this.
I do have Bessie Chronopoulos registered. Bessie, you wish to comment on, it looks like a couple items on consent agenda. I'll call on you at this time.
That'll be fine. I'm not really sure exactly where, but
You had item 1A and 4.
right. Okay, the council action on the 13th, following executive session, where the council passed the comp plan in open session, was startling, and I feel wrong, despite what was just said here. It reminded me about the February 9th meeting where the website issue was also discussed. And I drew some interesting parallels between those two meetings and those two subjects. And I'm going to try to condense this as best I can. The website issue involved a resolution, which had basically two parts to it: the waivering and the awarding of a contract to Civic Plus. The ordinance with the comp plan, regarding the comp plan, had the comp plan specified with all its details, plus modifications to Chapter 3. Those should have been two resolutions. One should have been for the waivering of the bidding process in the website issue. And then another resolution for the contract. I don't know why those were combined into one. And the same thing goes for the ordinance, the comp plan ordinance. There should have been one ordinance for the comp plan and another one delineating what exactly was going to be done with the modifications in Chapter 3. That was not done. So that's one parallel between those two issues. The other one was the lack of vetting for either item. For the resolution item involving the website issue, there was a wavering of the bidding process. That means no vetting. There was no opportunity to really compare prices and really compare as to what was able to be given. And instead, it was a big rush. And for the comp plan, there was no analysis of all that very complex information. There was no analysis by the Finance Advisory Board, which is there to do exactly that, to vet issues and to delineate financial information for the council. It seems as if discussions took place in executive session on both of these items. And for the website issue, it seems as if that was done under litigation because it involved the Department of Justice. And for the comp plan, it came under personnel. Now, that is stretching litigation, and that is stretching personnel issues that can be done behind closed doors by quite a bit, What was the rush? There was no need for this ultra rush, especially with a comp plan. And if somebody tells me that you had to get this in place by May 1st, well, you know, there's a word called retroactive. After proper vetting and proper scrutiny of the numbers, that could very easily have been implemented if indeed that was discovered to be the case, that it's a good plan, and it could have very easily been done retroactively, no problem. And I do take issue with what was said, and maybe if Alderman Jacobson were here, he could defend himself. I do not believe that he abstained. He refused to take part in a vote that he thought was improper. There's a significant difference, And this is extremely sad, very sad, what happened. Maybe the vote wasn't taken in executive session, but what did go on in executive session? Was there any discussion of that item in executive session? Highly improper if there was, highly improper. And the Attorney General is going to be looking into this, guaranteed. And the other item, on May 11th, it is my understanding, this just came to my attention today, and Mayor, I'm going to ask you this question. It is my understanding that on May 11th, you're going to be appointing a new city clerk. Am I correct in that? Because Marcia is only an interim and a temporary?
That's correct.
So when is the public supposed to have known about this? On May 11th, the day of? No indication at all as to the fact that this is being done? Or is that being discussed in closed session too?
Thank you, Bessie.
Do you have an answer for that?
An appointment of the city clerk for the remaining term will be done on May 11th, Bessie. Moving to consent agenda, we have the items listed in consent agenda. Is there wish on anyone's part from council to remove an item from consent? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Ray,
Yes.
6 aye.
Okay, is there a motion to approve by omnibus vote the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded. Ask for a roll call.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Fanouken,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
6 aye.
Thank you. Moving to items for separate action then, we have Resolution 2015-34, authorizing an engineering services agreement at hourly rates estimated to be in the amount of $113,340 with Frere Graham and Associates, Inc. for residential engineering services for the South First Street Water Main Replacement Project Phase 2. Is there a motion?
So moved?
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this item. Engineer Liskowski.
Mayor and City Council, this item goes jointly with item number G2, the amount of the bid of the South First Street Water Main Project. That project began back in 2013. It was designed originally to go from Taylor Street down to Route 38. In 2013 and 14, the project was pared back a little bit to go from Taylor Street to Garden Street. And at that time, it was decided that that was a project that would be able to fit within the budget. So this is the second phase of that project. This project now extends the existing 8-inch water main up to the tracks, and then there's another portion of the project that addresses the water main on the north side of the tracks where the Walgreens is. Originally, this design was going to have the water main go beneath the tracks. During the time in between the phase 1 and phase 2, that water main exploded, and there was a water main break there. I shouldn't say exploded, that water main burst. And at that time, the project then was redesigned in order to have a section address the south side water flows as well as the north side of the project as well. So the anticipation is that at some point in the future, the 8-inch water main that's extended for fire flows for Walgreens will then be looped into development to the west. I'd ask the council if they'd want to consider item G2, which is the award of the bid prior to G1, because the residential engineering services are kind of contingent on the award of the bid at this time.
I would move that we consider item G2 first, then.
I think perhaps the simplest approach would be to just take the motion that's on the floor off the floor and consider item G2.
Okay. Would the motion maker
Yes,
withdraw?
I move that.
In a second? Okay. I'd entertain a motion then to award bid in the amount of $950,000 for the South First Street water main replacement phase 2 to Elliott and Wood with staff authority to approve change orders up to $978,500.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there a discussion? John?
Just to go in a little deeper then, this is the phase 2 portion of the South First Street water main. It's going to be a 1,700 linear foot project that replaces 90-year-old 4-inch water main with 8-inch water main. The engineering division and the water division both recognize that the benefits of this project are going to be improved water quality. It's going to eliminate lead water services along the length of the water main. It's going to improve fire flows throughout the neighborhood, and it also aligns with the recommendations of the EPA to remove and replace 4-inch water main with larger diameter water main. In addition to the water quality benefits that the that will be recognized with this project. There's also going to be the potential to reduce flooding in this neighborhood. As part of the project also addresses an undersized and collapsing storm sewer in that location. The bids that we received, there were 3 bids, five contractors picked up plans. The engineering staff contacted the 2 respondents that did not submit bids, and one indicated that they had too much work at the time, and the other was a subcontractor. The two individual contracting firms that did bid, Elliott and Wood and Fisher, were over the engineer's estimate. The engineer's estimate was $856,948. Elliott and Wood's low bid was $950,000. Staff investigated why this could be the case, that the engineer's estimate was low. When we were interviewing the engineers for the resident engineering services, we were asking that question because we were concerned about the cost of the project. It was indicated that at that time, a lot of the tollway projects right now are attracting a lot of the smaller firms from the area to work on the bigger projects. As a result, there's an increased competition at the local level, which corresponds to an increase in prices. So in this case, the analysis of the low bid is that it is accurate, and we believe that because of those water quality issues and the reduction in flooding that's going to occur with this project, that this is a good project to proceed with. As Mayor Ray indicated, staff is requesting the authority to spend at $978,500. This is a 3% increase over the bid amount. We don't anticipate spending this money. It's merely there to give staff the authority to address any unforeseen circumstances that might occur with underground work. And so with that, the staff recommendation would be to award the low bid to Elliott and Wood at this time.
Okay, we have the motion before us to award the bid to Elliott and Wood. Is there discussion? Alderman Fanouken.
I'd just like to make note that the second bid was more than $200,000 higher, and also from an out-of-town company. I'm glad to see that we're able to keep the business here in town.
Other discussion? Alderperson Lash.
Thank you. I think that the 3% on this particular project makes sense since it is underground work and a lot can come up that you just have no idea because you can't see it. I did note that in the memo it said that this could be a model for how we approve bids moving forward. And I don't know about the rest of the council. I would not be comfortable with that. I think on a project by project basis, you know, seeing those numbers, but you know, on this one, like I said, it makes a lot of sense because of underground work, but I don't know if I'm comfortable with it as a policy.
If I can speak to that, Mayor, you will note, and that language is carryover from a couple past contracts where this has appeared. On projects of this nature, on paving projects and underground water projects, where there are projects where you may get into it and find halfway through that there's additional work to be completed that has additional expense. In the past, we found that often these were brought to council. A contract of this nature might be brought to council and say, approval of a contract not to exceed $950,000. So if you got into the project and there was a $1,000 expense that was needed to make the last 1 foot of water main connection, staff wouldn't have the ability to do that until we waited to bring it back to council. So we're certainly not, it's not something that's going to start appearing on every contract, but we're trying to identify contracts of this nature. They typically tend to be the public works contracts where waiting for a 3-week meeting cycle may take too long to delay the project and come up with some reasonable contingency that gives us the ability to complete them or address an unforeseen circumstance. But again, as you properly note, just on those types of contracts that have the potential for something like this.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Further discussion? I'll ask for a roll call then.
Leary. Fanouken.
Yes.
Lash.
Yes.
Ray.
Yes.
6-0.
Okay. Moving to Resolution 2015-34, authorizing an engineering services agreement at hourly rates estimated to be in the amount of $113,340 with Fair Graham and Associates Incorporated for residential engineering services for the South First Street Water Main Replacement Project Phase 2. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved in the second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. John?
This is the second part then of the South First Street water main services that the staff is requesting. This request for qualifications originally went out on February 9th amongst 16 other projects. We distributed these to qualified engineering firms, and we received 16 responses for this project specifically. Engineering staff reviewed these responses, developed some criteria by which we thought that we could identify the most qualified candidates, and selected those for interviews. In this case, we found 5 individual consulting firms that we felt met our expectations, and we called them in for interviews. Those companies were Strand, Fair Graham, Baxter and Woodman, Willett Hoffman, and Hampton Lenzini Renwick Engineering. After interviewing those 5, we discussed our selection and felt that Fair Graham was the most qualified to provide us with the resident engineering services at this time. Included with that RFP, we had requested hourly rates just to get a feel for what the consultant services would be costing us. Typically in RFPs, we don't get hard costs on on professional services, but this kind of gave us a range to kind of gauge what we can expect as a cost. In this case, engineering staff felt that an appropriate amount of, or an appropriate cost for the project would be between $122,000 and $136,000. In the case that, once we selected Fair Graham, we negotiated the scope of the work as well as the cost, and the cost came in at $113,340. At this time, staff would make the recommendation to enter into this agreement with Fair Graham and Associates in the amount of $113,340.
Is there discussion from council?
I would just want
Alderman
to compliment John and the process that's based upon the qualification-based selection process, and an excellent job done in selecting the most qualified consultant. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bessie, do you wish to speak?
I just wanted an explanation.
Okay. Thank you. With that, is there further discussion?
We need a motion, Your Honor.
We have a motion.
It had to be withdrawn.
I thought I just
Okay.
asked for a motion.
That's right, I'm sorry.
I think we did.
Don't you have a motion,
Yeah,
Marcia?
you,
My-
yeah,
my
you read it
confusion-
again, and then it did
my
get,
confusion.
it did get summoned and seconded, yeah.
I
so.
moved and
Thank you.
Bill seconded.
Okay, with that, then I'll ask for a roll call.
Naylor,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Fanouken,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
6-0.
Okay, motion carried. Resolution 2015-35, authorizing submittal of the application dated April 27, 2015 for a public transportation capital assistance grant under the Illinois Department of Transportation's general authority to make such grants. Is there a motion?
So move.
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Brian Dixon.
Yes, I would like to thank Tom Zucker, who gave his presentation about this new transit facility during the public hearing process. Where we are is we have submitted 4 grants to assist us in building a new public transportation facility for VAC, which is direly needed. We submitted both the city of DeKalb and DeKalb County, submitted to IDOT back in 2012, applications for assistance in building these facilities. It was reviewed by IDOT, and we were approved for the city of DeKalb to receive $3 million and DeKalb County to receive $550,000. Now, this was an on-paper approval, but at this time, we need to move forward to get actual funding approval so we can receive these funds. We have, as noted, received notification that the state is looking at all these on-paper grants, and if there's no action, forward-moving action on them, they're removing them. So we want to move forward quickly to ensure that our grants are not lost. So the staff is requesting that the city council approve the resolution to authorize the mayor to sign the grant request for the city of DeKalb to use $3 million towards the construction of a new transit facility. And these funds, we are looking to use it mainly for the environmental NEPA process, to look at the environmental impacts of the site, the preliminary engineering design from an architecture firm to resolve the final details of the site, and then to look at site development such as leveling of the site itself and the possibly bring in utilities and stuff. And then we are looking actively for other additional federal and state funding sources to complete the full construction of the facility.
Okay. Questions, Alderman Fanouken?
Just a comment, as a former Voluntary Action Center board member, I'm well aware of the need for the new facility. They've outgrown the transit portion of that facility by leaps and bounds. They're forced to, store buses outside even in the coldest weather, and that makes it very hard on their equipment and on the personnel. Again, these are all non-municipal dollars that we'd be getting to use for this project, and I think that's a benefit, not just the city of DeKalb, but also the county, and I would encourage everyone to vote for this.
Okay. Other discussion? Alderman Snow.
Is the existing facility going to be folded into the new facility if that's built? What will happen to the existing structure?
They have an existing structure that probably all of the operations for transit would move to the new facility. They also, on site there, have their Meals on Wheels program. There is a possibility of maybe allowing that to expand on that site. However, that would be a county decision, since that property is owned by the county also. So the final distribution of that site would be up to them.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman
Yeah,
Fanouken.
if I may, just for council's edification, the site that the county's given for this particular project is adjacent to Tails, so it's removed from the location of their current facility.
Okay. Other discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Fanouken,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
6-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Brian. Ordinance 2015-19, approving the rezoning of certain property at 150 North 6th Street, commonly known as Fargo Theater. And this is before us at first reading this evening. Is there a motion?
So move.
It's been moved. A second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll ask Jared Hayden to address us.
Thank you, Mayor. So what you have before you tonight is a rezoning application for the property or a portion of the parcel located at 150 North 6th Street, as well as 625 East Lincoln Highway. The rezoning application would allow the applicant Ariel Reese to relocate her shop from 229 East Lincoln Highway, small town skateboard shop from 229 East Lincoln Highway to the location, as well as repurposing the existing structure on the parcel, which is currently being used as a warehouse, into an indoor skateboard training facility. Under the light industrial zoning that the structure is currently zoned as, we do not allow recreational use. Rezoning it to central business district would allow this recreational use. At the March 25th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of this with no conditions, and staff concurs with that opinion. Additionally, the petitioner has asked that we waive the second reading of this ordinance.
Discussion from council? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call then. And this is on first reading.
O'Leary. Fanouken.
Yes.
Lash.
Yes.
Snow.
Yes.
Naylor.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Ray.
Yes.
6 aye.
Okay, and my understanding is the petitioner has requested waiving second reading
Correct.
and passing this evening.
So moved.
It's been moved.
Second.
Is there moved and seconded?
Second.
Further discussion? Roll call.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Lash.
Yes.
Snow.
Yes.
Naylor.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
Leary. Ray.
Yes.
6 aye.
Thank you. Moving to ordinance 2015-20, approving the rezoning of certain property at 517 to 635 Roberts Lane and 650 to 677 Roberts Circle, parcels 0812-100037, 0812-100038, and 0812-100039, Oakcrest Retirement Community.
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah.
on the last item, from time to time, the council has taken action to waive second reading and pass an ordinance by one motion. And from time to time, you have done those by two separate motions, one motion to waive and one motion to pass. With the last motion that was made to waive second reading, just for absolute public clarity, because the city has received some inquiries on this lately, I would suggest that you do a motion to also pass this evening. And prospectively, you may wish to just combine those into one motion.
Okay. Let me move back to ordinance 2015-19, approving the rezoning of certain property at 150 North 6th Street, Fargo Theater. Is there a motion to pass ordinance 2015-19?
So moved.
Been
Second.
moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Fanouken.
Yes.
Lash.
Yes.
Stowe.
Yes.
Naylor.
Yes.
Baker.
Yes.
O'Leary. Ray.
Yes.
6 aye.
Thank you. Returning to ordinance 2015-20, then, approving the rezoning of certain property at 517 to 635 Roberts Lane and 650 to 677 Roberts Circle, parcels 0812100037, 0812100038, and 0812100039, Oakcrest Retirement Community. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. I'll call on Principal Planner Highland.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you this evening is a request by DeKalb Area Retirement Center to construct a building addition on the property. This has been an effort that's been ongoing for 35 years to provide the residents of DeKalb current amenities What you have in your background material shows the building's addition, the elevations in accordance with what was presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission. The unique nature to this request, the original plan unit development was approved in 1998. To amend or change the plan that was initially adopted requires a rezoning petition. And while we approached the Planning and Zoning Commission with that amendment to add this building addition, it was noted that there were some zoning inconsistencies also on the property that you've identified in the heading for the development. So before you tonight is a new boundary for the planned unit development that would include all the townhouse development, but also the main campus of Oak Crest, along with the building addition. So a PUD for the entire campus is before you this evening. Planning and Zoning Commission considered this request too on their March 25th meeting, and the petitioners are here tonight seeking a waiver of second reading as well.
Okay. So we have the motion before us at first reading on this ordinance. Is there discussion? I'll ask for a roll call.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Ray,
Yes,
6-0.
thank you. And upon the
Excuse me.
Oh, I'm
But-
sorry, I didn't get Alderman
Yes.
Fanouken. Is that a yes?
Yes.
Motion carried. Then, based on the petitioner's request to waive second reading and pass the ordinance 2015-20 this evening,
I'll make a motion to waive second reading and
Second.
approve on second reading.
Okay. And I heard a second. Thank you. Further discussion? Roll call.
Snow,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Fanouken,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes.
6-0.
I move to approve.
Second.
No,
That-
We did.
We
in
combined the
one
motion.
I didn't hear that word
I
combined.
didn't hear it combined.
I
I'm
said to
sorry.
to waive second reading and approve. was
All
my
right,
motion.
so read.
Which was city attorney's
You're an attorney, aren't you?
recommendation. Proactive. Okay. With that, I'd like to thank Oak Crest for the continued service in the community. The quality of service that you folks deliver is admirable, so thank you for that. Moving to ordinance 2015-21, approving a special use permit for a cellular communications tower at 1472 Barber Green Road. And this is before us in first reading. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved in a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Principal Planner.
Thank you, Mayor. American Tower Corporation, who has a cellular communications tower on a property that's owned by the Sarah Family Trust, which includes the 1472 Barber Green Road, but also the property that houses the residential structure that encompasses this particular tower, is before you tonight to request a special use permit for a legally non-conforming cellular communications tower. And it's legally non-conforming because if you recall, 4 or 5 years ago, we did the involuntary annexation for those pockets of land within the city of DeKalb that were non-annexed. This property in particular was one of those that was forced annexed into the city and into the community, to which we took the tower as it was. The reason it's come back for a special use permit is ATC, or American Tower Corporation, is proposing to add additional antennae on the base, but also additional equipment on the ground in the footprint, therefore expanding the legally non-conforming use that had been grandfathered a number of years ago. The Planning and Zoning Commission considered this recommendation at their March 25th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and they recommended that approval be conditioned upon the 3 items outlined in your background. There should have been in your packets a revised site plan that incorporates, I think, all of items 1, 2, and 3. The portion of gravel that gains access to the tower is now proposed to be paved. The petitioner has agreed to do that. The new equipment will be painted in a neutral color, and there is a landscaping plan in the background that is provided to complement the existing trees and shrubs and bushes that are on site. So in the month that the Planning and Zoning Commission had till tonight, from the meeting till tonight, the petitioner has worked diligently to attempt to address those before you, for your consideration. So that summarizes the action and the movement on this tower up to this point.
Okay,
Question there?
yes.
What-
Alderman Naylor.
Did I understand that there will be another tower, or will just the antenna be placed on the existing tower?
The equipment will go on the existing tower. There's not a new tower proposed.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Snow.
And this does not increase the height of the tower as it's currently sits.
That's my understanding, correct?
It does or does not?
Does not.
Doesn't.
Other discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask for a roll call.
Naylor,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Fanouken,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes,
6-0.
thank you. And is this petitioner asking for waiving second reading?
None at this time.
Leonard Highland? Okay, this will come back to us then on May 11th. Ordinance 2015-22, amending Chapter 38 intoxicating liquors, Section 38.20, tasting/sampling permit pertaining to farmers market alcohol sales. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
The city has, for many years, conducted the farmers markets here in the city. For the past several years, a local wine manufacturer has conducted limited sales of packaged liquors at those events. In 2013, that practice was codified with an amendment to Chapter 38 that authorized the liquor commissioner to issue a local permit for those sales, which enables them to get a state license for the sales. For the past several years, that process has been effective. It has not caused any policeman enforcement issues or any concerns of any kind. It has been a appreciated addition to the farmers market. The vendor now seeks to add the ability to do some very limited tasting or sampling as a component of their sales. What we have before you is an ordinance for your consideration, which would permit the liquor commissioner to authorize, as a component of sales at the farmers market only, tasting or sampling conducted in accordance with the city ordinance on tasting or sampling. Essentially, that permits up, as the ordinance is drafted currently, up to 5 samples with no more than 1 ounce of wine on a given day, and it has to be provided without charge. So this would not be paying for samples. This would not be buying beverages. This would just be buying limited 1 ounce pours of, this would be obtaining as a sample limited 1 ounce pours in conjunction with the package sales of closed bottles of wine at the farmer's market. From a staff perspective, we've reviewed it. We don't believe it has any police implications. It has a positive recommendation from staff.
Okay. Discussion? Alderman Snow.
I support this ordinance. I mean, I think local wineries are becoming very popular. When we can allow them perhaps to increase their sales, it benefits both the winery and their sales, obviously their income, but also adds additional income for the city through sales tax. So I think anything time we can work with a vendor like this in a controlled environment, it's a positive for everyone.
Okay. Alderman Naylor.
For clarification, again, you said there would be no charge for the sampling? Is that
That's correct. Under the city ordinance, they're not permitted to charge for the tasting or sampling. And the idea is to not have it become
Sure.
converted into sale of alcohol for consumption on premises.
Thank you.
Further discussion? I'll ask for a roll call then.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Fanouken,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Ray.
Yes.
6 ayes.
Okay, and this will then come back to us May 11th as well. Moving to ordinance 2015-23, amending Chapter 2, City Council pertaining to public participation at city council meetings. I'll entertain a motion to amend Chapter 2.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Alderman Fanouken?
Just that, as we have on regular council meetings, I'd like to have included on the agenda for Committee of the Whole, a public comment section.
So help me understand, Alderman.
All right, currently on the regular city council meetings, we have a section called citizens' comments.
Yep.
I'd also like to have that included on the Committee of the Whole agendas when they come out.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay.
Boy, we better be careful with that.
Well, I understand.
Well,
But-
if you only have an hour for the meeting, it could be 1, 2 hours of public comment.
Again, I understand that, but in the true spirit of the Open Meetings Act, I think that's something we need to do.
You
I think it's
haven't lived through
required.
those nights of hours and hours. I mean, how are we going to deal with that? What is your vision?
Well,
there?
just like we deal with public comments in the regular meeting.
But we don't have a time limit. We can extend those meetings.
And I don't believe there's a time limit on council of the whole either, other than to start the regular council meeting.
Which we've started late before.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I guess it would be up to the then mayor to make sure that we don't repeat ourselves between the comments and the first session and have them come back up and redo it all again in the second.
Yeah, and well, traditionally, though, over the last 2 years, the committee of the whole typically is not on the agenda for that evening, so.
And I believe we can establish rules for public comment, and if we feel that they're getting out of hand, if we want to set time limits or rules as to how to do that, we can do that. But my understanding of the Public Open Meetings Act is if somebody wants to speak at the Committee of the Whole, we're required to allow that opportunity.
And the city has in fact established rules, and I believe it's section 2.04D of the city code.
So it's really bringing this ordinance in line with current practice.
Yes.
Further
But
discussion,
I guess
Alderman
the question
Naylor.
would be to Bill's comment. So there would be a line item on the committee of the whole agenda that would allow for public input. And where would that be at, if that's the case? At the beginning or at the end, or for each subject matter?
The city's practice for at least the recent past has been to permit public comment when it's been requested at the Committee of the Whole. I think from a staff perspective, we can look at that and evaluate and come up with a recommendation and implement that on where it would be listed on the agenda.
Alderman Baker.
Oh, okay, now, because this caught me off guard. Now, here's the important question. The citizen comments are only during the regular meeting on items that are not on that particular agenda. So what do you have in mind for the rules of the Committee of the Whole citizen comments?
Well, actually, even this evening, there were comments made in the citizen comment section that were of items that were on the agenda this evening.
So it's just going to be a free flow and we'll see what happens? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I just think that in the true spirit of the Open Meetings Act, we do need to include that line. And as Dean has stated, that we have allowed public comment at COW prior to this. This just makes it clear on the agenda that we will allow it so desired.
Okay, it's not clear to me. Here's what we've always done. and very rarely has anybody been censored at the committee of the whole, because I've encouraged people to show up so that when questions came up, they would be in the public. But the citizen comments on the committee of the whole, for the last 14 years I've been doing this, only were related to what we were talking about during that committee of the whole. You know, that makes sense, but just open it up to have them come up and talk about anything when we're in
Well, I
a time
think maybe,
constraint
maybe
makes no
we should
sense.
ask council to clarify exactly where that should be on that, if that can be limited to what's on the agenda for cow.
The Open Meetings Act doesn't include a topical limitation of that nature. It doesn't say, for example, that it would be limited to items on the agenda. As far as the city adopting rules for how you proceed at a meeting, the practice that you have at the city council level, where you have an opportunity for public comment on topics not on the agenda and for public comment on topics related to the agenda, I think likely makes sense. Again, as we implement this on an agenda listing for the committee of the whole meeting, my recommendation would be, that seems to be the consensus of the council to include that. Let us go back and evaluate how best to put that on the agenda to make clear to the public the city's commitment to allowing public comment in compliance with the Open Meetings Act.
I agree.
Okay,
All right, that makes sense, cool.
okay. We have the motion before us then to amend Chapter 2, as previously stated. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call.
O'Leary, Fanouken.
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
Ray,
Yes,
6 ayes.
thank you.
I'd like to move for waive and passage on second reading, please.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, further discussion? Yes.
Alderman Snow, he used the word passage instead of approval. Is that going to be the same thing?
I think
believe
the
it does.
intent of the motion was clear.
All right, just for clarification.
With that, I'll ask for a roll call.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Ray,
Yes,
6 ayes.
thank you. Motion carried. Communications, Alderman Fanouken.
A couple of items tonight I'd like to make mention of. I want to congratulate a Voluntary Action Center driver, and hopefully I will say his name correctly, Todd McLaughlin, who won the State Paratransit Rodeo and will represent the state of Illinois at the national competition. May 4th is Firefighter Appreciation Day, and again, I want to Chief Hicks, I want you to know that we all do appreciate your department. And then lastly, I want to thank Ron and Kristen for their service here on council.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alderperson Lash.
Thank you. My report's going to be a little bit longer than usual, but it's early and it's my last one, so bear with me. The last 4 years have seen just absolutely enormous change in the city of DeKalb. As I look down to the dais and at the table of senior staff, I realize that as of the seating of the new council, there will only be one person who was sitting in the same chair when I was elected. That would be you, Baker. This creates some very exciting opportunities for change for DeKalb, some of which has already started. I encourage the new council and the new staff to continue to think outside what has already been done, or what has always been done. As mentioned, some of this has already started. We've outsourced our legal services, and the advice and service of Attorney Frieders has been absolutely outstanding. The new police station was built, and while I still hold that it could have been done better, I'm still proud of what that building has allowed our officers to do for our community. We have a new police chief in Gene Lowry, who has done some reorganization and has utilized great ideas and tools for what has been very effective community policing. Ward 3 has the first resident officer with Jared Burke in the Pleasant Street neighborhood, and in 2 years of his service, calls for service have already dropped substantially, and I'm incredibly impressed with his involvement in our neighborhood while still also serving as a regular patrol officer. I could go on all night about the great things I've seen happening in my 4 years, especially from Fire Chief Hicks, with savings he's realized even while building an addition on Fire Station 2 and purchasing a new ladder truck. From Derek Highland with the rewriting of our zoning ordinances and navigating the strong opinions of council on special use permits. And even in this past year from our newest staff, the way John Laskowski, Ellen DeVita, Kathy Haley, Patty Hoppenstedt, and especially Anne Marie Gora have all hit the ground running and worked to improve our city operations is truly impressive. We'll also soon have a new library. This is probably the most exciting thing for me personally to have been involved with in my time on the council. The expanded space will allow for many more community programs, and I'm so excited to see what's coming there. Of course, I have regrets as well, things I wish I could have done, and things I wish that could have been done better. Two stand out most in my mind, and I'm challenging the new council with these tasks. First is social services funding. It's always taken a back seat, and while I did try to bring it up each year, I wish I'd been able to do more. Please, council, don't forget those services. Our social service agencies do so much to support those most in need in our community. I realize that the budget is tight, but in those times, the needs of those served by these agencies are exponentially larger. Please do what you can to at least maintain or preferably increase the budget for these agencies, especially now that they're being cut from all sides. Second is equality. You know the fight I've been waging for gender equality, and I'm so glad that staff, Attorney Frieders in particular, have taken this to heart and removed unnecessary pronouns from new ordinances and resolutions. But that's not enough. Until transgender, agender, gender fluid, women, men, and every other gender on the spectrum feel welcome as equals in all aspects of our city governments and services, the council's work on this issue is not done. And start with gender, but that's not where it stops. All citizens of DeKalb should enjoy this equality, recognition, and respect for the human beings that they are. My time on the council has been incredibly educational and rewarding, and I thank everyone, especially the citizens of Ward 3, for the opportunity to serve.
Thank you, Kristen. Alderman Snow?
No report.
Alderman Naylor?
Thank you. I have a couple items here. A couple weeks ago, I had the opportunity to attend the residents' meeting up in the North Fifth Ward that are trying to reorganize, and hopefully they will get that accomplished so that there will be a voice, somewhat of a common voice from that area up there. And I wish them well, and I hope that Kate is able to carry on in my role of being somewhat of the liaison between that group and the city council up there. Also, I had the opportunity last Friday to participate with the mayor down at the Barb City Manor and the street department's, Public Works Department's Arbor Day planting of a tree that I thought was a great success. And there had to be probably 8, 10, maybe a dozen of the citizens residing there at the Barb City Manor to assist in the planting of the tree, particularly in filling the hole and covering the tree roots and that up on it. And I just thought I'd mention that since I know there are some pictures in the paper of other Arbor Day events out there, and it seems like our Public Works and Streets Division don't get the publicity that many others do out there. But that, I believe Mark said that was the 15th or 17th year, something like that, that the Public Works Department has participated in that effort and initiative. Also, likewise, to thank Marcia for her interim services to the city as our city clerk. My comments are probably not as well prepared as maybe what Kristen has here on it, but I too have definitely enjoyed the past 8 years here on the city council and sharing all the efforts with my colleagues out there. And I'd like to thank the residents of the Fifth Ward throughout for supporting me, for putting me here on the city council. I find it to be an honor and a great privilege to have served the group. Have met many great people over the course of time, even though I thought I knew everybody there in the Fifth Ward, but I obviously didn't on it. We've had many great sessions and input from all of the various residents throughout the ward as well as throughout the city, and I definitely have learned an awful lot above and beyond what I already thought likewise that I knew there. We've had many discussions, some easy, some not so easy, over the past 8 years up here, and I trust that I have hopefully done the best that I can, and I have kept everyone's considerations in mind and have basically made decisions that was the best for the entire community out there. We've seen, likewise, I think, as Christian has mentioned, many accomplishments over those years, and particularly the police department being one of the bigger ones out there. More recently, we've seen the library grow, and that's going to be a great addition to the community as well, particularly when you drive north on 3rd Street and see that building standing out in front of you now. You recognize there's a library there or some municipal building. Compared to what it used to be, it was sort of around the corner, and you really had to get up close to be able to see it. Now you're going to see it, and I think it's going to be a great asset for being a catalyst in the downtown area, and particularly benchmarking somewhat the north end of the downtown area. We've also seen many other improvements throughout the city. Yet there are many to remain out there. One of the improvements I thought was most meaningful during my term has been basically the improvement to the downtown area, and I look forward to seeing many more improvements in the downtown area as we go forth here in the years to come, and particularly in the redevelopment area and the improvement and increase in the numbers of viable businesses there in the downtown. But many things remain likewise. City Hall rehab here being one. One dear to my heart is all of the infrastructure out there, all of the streets, the water mains, the sewers, what have you, that need improvement, and which I know we have some difficulty in being able to finance, and I'm certain that's going to be some challenges to the new council as we go forth here, but I certainly support whatever can be done to enhance our infrastructure, because in all reality, it definitely is deteriorating out there. As you can see from earlier this evening, to put in 1,700, 1,800, a couple thousand feet of water main, that's pretty expensive, and it does cost a lot of money to maintain our infrastructure, but basically that's something that is very paramount in what needs to be done in the coming years. Also, continuing improvements to the economic efforts that we have throughout the city. There's been considerable effort put into that area over the past many years, but there's still a lot to do, and even though our jobless rate continues to decline, but also a lot of our jobs are moving away from the city, and we need to stabilize that and to work as we go forth and making improvements there. Another area that I note too is continuing improvement, the so-called communiversity relationships between the university and the city. And as you can see from the reports that we've received tonight, those things are really growing, I do believe, particularly in the last couple of years or so. And I look forward to seeing those further improve as we go forth here. As stated earlier, I certainly have enjoyed my 8 years up here. And I really feel that it's an honor and a privilege to have worked here. I'd like to likewise thank all the staff, I think, as well as was commented on earlier this evening. Have to take a breath. As I was saying, we have a great staff. And I thank everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Ron. Alderman Baker.
I wanted to thank Kristen and Ron. It's been both a pleasure and an honor for me to serve alongside both of you. I've welcomed all the friendly debate and lively input from everyone, and that's what makes this council work, is a myriad of opinions. And it's been great. I know that and I also wanted to thank the newly elected council leaders that, is it next week that they will be sitting up here? I mean, 2 weeks from now?
2 weeks.
in the planning of pictures, because I know everybody has to dress for those, I can't be here on that meeting. My son graduates from college, and he broke his arm in competing with at nationals for the Duke ski team, and he reminded me a couple days ago, Dad, you got to clean my apartment and pack up my stuff in the U-Haul and move me to my new job. And I said, okay, well, that's cool, but I know that with Photoshop it maybe could be done, but I definitely won't be here at the next meeting. Well, once again, thanks everyone, to the newly elected officials as well as those that are retiring.
Thank you. Alderman Naylor.
Hey, I just wanted to go back, and I apologize, but I didn't thank my colleagues up here for their support. Likewise, not only the present, but the past colleagues that we've had up here over the 8 years, and I certainly enjoyed sharing all of our decision-making processes and conversations over those past years. And last but not least, maybe foremost, would be my wife and my family. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Couple of comments. First, on the city clerk position, I'd like to reflect on the fact that Liz Peerbroom resigned as city clerk, I believe it was in November, if I'm recalling.
I believe it might have been September.
Fall of 2014, at which time I began securing interest in a temporary clerk or an individual who'd be willing to serve as temporary clerk, continue on running for election on April 7th. I'd like to thank Marcia Swigert for stepping forward and serving as that interim clerk. Our intent was to have Marcia serve through the election on April 7th. As it turned out, no one filed for election on April 7th. The individual that filed for write-in candidate withdrew, so there was no active candidate on the ballot, which then put me in the position to appoint a city clerk for the remaining 2-year term of that position. I'm delighted that Susan Pepino has agreed to serve in that appointment, and my plan is to deliver that appointment to council at the May 11th council meeting. The second item is with regard to Mardi Gras. Northern is hosting the inaugural Mardi Gras Festival on May 2nd, this coming Saturday. It involves a parade downtown starting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There are art receptions throughout the community, and then there's an evening musical performance, and Kishwaukee Symphony Orchestra is participating in that musical activity. NIU.edu/Mardi Gras is the website where you can find further information on that event. As I turn to staff comments, I see Tom Cleveland has joined us. Tom, earlier we deferred Ron's recognition till May 11th. Would you like to conduct that this evening?
I can be very short.
Why don't we go ahead and do that?
Then I won't have to go back to May 11th.
This is coming back to recognizing Ron Naylor on behalf of the city by the Airport Advisory Board.
First of all, I do apologize for being late tonight. We'll talk about that later. First, I would like to thank Ron for all his support at DeKalb Taylor Municipal Airport. Got a couple things I'd like to do for him. As the current president of the Illinois Public Airport Association, they would like to make you a life member. So you are welcome at any and all of our conferences, and thank you for the support for the IPAA. The second thing would be from the DeKalb Taylor Municipal Airport Advisory Board, Airport Advisory Board, and I let the engineer put this together over here. But we would like to, the Airport Advisory Board and myself would like to thank Ron for his vision and support of the airport. And without him, we couldn't have done it. And he's made DeKalb Taylor Municipal Airport one of the finest general aviation airports in the nation. So thank you, Ron.
Thank you. And obviously, no one individual could do that without a great team between the city council, past city councils in particular, as well as the present city council, in their ongoing support of the efforts to make DeKalb's airport, DeKalb Taylor Municipal Airport, one of the finer in the state of Illinois, and it's ongoing, and as we approved this evening, one more little step in that long-range vision. And I would have to say, from back in the early 70s, when I first started here at the City of DeKalb in the Public Works Engineering Division, we went through the airport layout master planning initiative at that time and came up with the plan that is basically on the books now. And in my wildest envision back at that time, that was in the early 70s, and would I never have envisioned having the extensive amount of airport facilities that we do currently have. One of the finer ones, general aviation airport, probably in the entire state of Illinois, with a major runway upwards of 7,000 feet long, if not plus or minus a few feet in there, which is longer than the runways that they use at Midway on it. So we have a great initiative and capital infrastructure facility out there that is probably second to none, and particularly with leadership like Tom that we have at the airport, as well as the Airport Advisory Board. I'm certain it's going to continue to grow and improve and definitely become economically feasible and standing on its own one of these days. Thanks. Thank you, Tom. Thanks to the Airport Board.
Thank you. Congratulations. City Manager, Cora?
Thank you very much, Mayor. The city will be represented this week in Springfield. We will be lobbying on behalf of the city in regards to a variety of issues, including LGDF reduction. We will be joining other municipalities as part of the Metro West Council of Government, and I know we'll have more to report at the May 11th meeting.
Thank you. City Attorney Frieders?
To Alderman Baker's point, if we start photoshopping missing members of city council into pictures from meetings, I suspect that may foment additional concerns with the Attorney General's office. So I would respectfully counsel against that suggestion.
Okay, so moved.
For Alderwoman Lash and Alderman Naylor, it's been a privilege serving with both of you, and you have both been very clear and eloquent, and perhaps most importantly, very courteous in your discussions of very significant issues for the city. And you have, as staff, we take direction on you from policy, and having clear statements of what your expectations are, of what your beliefs that the city's direction should be, that's the best that we can ever hope for. So I'm thankful for the direction that you've offered and thankful for your service to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City Clerk?
I did want to just say, congratulations not only to our new council, but also, it's been a pleasure serving with all of you. And, Kristen and Ron, I wish you both well with moving on. And Kristen, I always enjoyed all of your questions and just very respectfully asked. And, Ron, your wisdom that you bring to the council. So it's been a pleasure serving with all of you. I wanted to acknowledge City Manager Gora and City Attorney Frieders. They've been very responsive to any questions that I've had about doing my work as city clerk. I also want to thank the mayor. He's also been very responsive. She's not here, but I want to thank Ruth Scott. She really has spent the most amount of time with me, training me on how to do minutes and proofreading my minutes. So I really want to, give her a special, credit for that. Also, too, I do want to say that Assistant City Manager Patty Hoppenstadt was also really welcoming when I came here and offered me any kind of space I wanted, office space, whatever chair I wanted, whatever laptop I wanted. So I've really felt that the entire staff here has been very welcoming, and I really do appreciate that.
Thank you, Marcia. Assistant City Manager?
I wanted to notify Mayor and City Council that city staff has been working closely with Center for Governmental Studies on the strategic plan, and we have provided Central for Governmental Studies all of the details that they needed to continue to move forward with the strategic plan. And in the very near future, town hall meetings will be communicated to the community where they will be able to participate. We will have locations identified that are ADA compliant locations, and meetings will be available in every ward. There will be transportation that will be provided to some of the meetings for those who need a means to participate and arrive at the town hall meetings. So more to come on the details of the town hall meetings, and we'll be communicating that to everyone as the dates and locations are finalized.
Thank you.
Also, I know I haven't been here very long, but I do want to wish Alderwoman Lash and Alderman Naylor gratitude for their guidance and direction in the short time that I have been here. And I truly appreciate the respect that you have shown me and the staff and the professionalism that you've afforded us. I truly enjoy working here for the city of DeKalb, and I appreciate the direction and guidance that's been provided so far by the city council. And thank you for making me feel welcomed in the short time that I have been here. And you will definitely be missed. And I look forward to working with the new council members that will be coming on board. And obviously, staff is here to provide any information that you need, because obviously we all have the same goal, and that is to serve the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Chief Lowry.
To Alderwoman Lash and Alderman Naylor, on behalf of the police department and me personally, I want to thank you so much for your service. And it means a great deal. You know, one of the greatest things you can give is of your service to your people. And I want to thank you for that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Finance Director Haley.
I just want to state our joint Finance Advisory Committee and City Council budget discussions will start on May 12th. That's the first meeting, starts at 5 o'clock. These are all on the calendar on our website. Second one is May 16th, that's a Saturday, starting at 8:30 till noon. And then May 20th is the third and final meeting, starting at 5 o'clock. And I too would just wanted to wish Alderwoman Lash and Alderman Naylor nothing but the best. It's been nothing but a pleasure. And I also look forward to working with the new council members, so.
Thank you.
Starting at a
Chief-
good time.
Chief Hicks.
On behalf of the fire department, I'd like to wish Alderwoman Lash and Alderman Naylor the best, and thank you for support to the fire department and public safety over the last couple of years.
Director
DeVita.
DeVita.
Again, I'll echo the thanks, and the support is well noted on behalf of community development. And then I wanted to give you an update on a project. In early March, I was contacted by the city of Rockford, and they and almost every community, I believe it's all communities in Winnebago County, are working together to adopt the same set of building codes, the ICC 2015 codes, and we are monitoring the process. The first thing I did was reach out to our builders group to make sure that their thoughts and knowledge was incorporated in any of our decisions, and Ken Anderson joined Greg Hoyle and I on one of the meetings, and now Lisa Sharp and Chuck Shepard and Jerry Evans and a few others are going to be sitting in on these committees. What they have found in reviewing all the amendments, they've reached out actually to 35 towns and 9 counties, and many are considering adopting the same set of codes, which will be a benefit to contractors, at least that's the intent, that then when they're bidding jobs, they would have the same set of code in each community. The first thing the work groups have done is review all the amendments that each of the towns are working with. And they're finding that the majority of the local amendments have been already incorporated into the 2015 ICC codes. And we'll continue to move forward. We don't want to make any recommendations without our builder community being in agreement, and I'll keep you informed as we go forward. They're looking to adopt these codes with very few amendments. They're aware that sprinklers are often a point of disagreement among many communities, and they'll be adopting a version without requirement of residential sprinklers. That's their intent right now. Okay, any questions, let me know. And if anyone from the community would like to get involved and sit in on these committees, please give me a call.
Thank you. Engineer Laskowski.
Thank you, Alderman Lash, for
or Alderwoman Lash, sorry. I'm getting used to it. Thank you, Alderwoman Lash,
Let's
for your
take it one
service.
more step and think outside the binary.
Okay.
Alderperson.
And also, thank you, Alderman Naylor, for both of your service. I look forward to working with you still as in your capacity as citizens and value your input still. And I also look forward to working with the new elected Alderwoman and Alderman as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John. At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve holding an executive session to discuss personnel as provided for in 5 ILCS 120/2C1, and approval to hold executive session to discuss collective bargaining and compensation as provided for in 5 ILCS 120/2C2. Is there a motion?
So moved?
Moved, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. I'll ask for a roll call.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Lash,
Yes.
Snow,
Yes.
Naylor,
Yes.
Baker,
Yes.
O'Leary, Ray.
Yes,
6 aye.
thank you.